guys, here we are, Stoomboy, the Combat Companion. So, obviously, all shows brought to you by Hard Life Fightwear. The Hard Life Fightwear, in my eyes, the number one fight apparel team or company out there in the UK, offering some amazing stuff from the rash guard shorts, gis, belts, all that kind of stuff. Do some amazing custom gear as well. So, anybody needing any stuff, if you've got a fight coming up, grappling match, and you need something to look good in, then hit up Hard Life Fightwear .co.uk, and the discount code, if you're going to be going on, Stoom15, or you might know someone who's fucking sponsored by Hard Life, because there seems to be a lot of us. Do you know what I mean? So, but definitely hit up Hard Life Fightwear. So, we're going to be talking about PFL Europe Glasgow. So PFL Glasgow is going to be this Saturday, the 28th of September. Now, going to be at the Hydro, so it's going to be an amazing event. It's going to be massive. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, we saw the success of Cage Warriors, the last two shows of Cage Warriors. Obviously, the UFC have been here a couple of times before as well, so massive success. So we're obviously hoping to see PFL having similar success this Saturday. So going to
I've seen people saying that it's pretty close to being sold out.
Yeah, but I saw that as well. Yeah, so there is still tickets available, guys. So make sure you do get your tickets for it. And obviously, it's on the telly as well. All right, so just hit up PFL Europe on the social medias and you'll get all that information. So, my guest then tonight for the pre show, Craig McIntosh, Spider Mott Submission Factory. So, obviously, awesome fighter and grappler himself. So, he's obviously been out there, high levels. He's one of these guys who'll fight or anybody at any time. See if he's in shape. Well, he's always in shape. But if he's on weight and a fight comes up and it makes sense, then obviously Mop's fucking the first person to put his name in for it, which is absolutely brilliant. And that's the kind of fighters we love. So, but Craig, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me.
Cheers, mate. I nearly managed to wangle myself on this card, but I'll be sitting in the spectator seats and checking it out. I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely. Then just to let you know, we've got Myles Painter, the MMA Yoda, in the comments. So obviously Myles is going to give us his insight as well, just as we break down some of the fights. But I mean, PFL Europe coming to Glasgow, a massive event, Craig. I mean, as I said, it's do you know what I mean? We see the card again. We've got some amazing Scottish fighters on the card, but fighters from all over the UK and further afield on the card as well, and some very, very good fights as well for Saturday.
I'm really looking forward to it, man. There's some amazing fights, hey, like for the top right down at the bottom. There's some amazing talent that they've managed to scoop up. And I was talking about this yesterday, actually. I was playing a wee bit poker yesterday, live cash up at the Aliyah, and I was blethering with a couple of the guys, and they were talking about fighting. It was the usual shit. Some people was talking about fucking Joshua. You know what I mean? Everybody's shitting on Joshua. Fucking guy's an Olympic fucking gold medalist, world champion, and but your average Joe that fucking plays a bit of cash poker. He can tank him and he's done, and you know what I mean. He's never been good. You know what I mean? That's whether I hate hearing it. It's fucking sad, man. You know, it's like you've no idea the level that these guys are fighting at, and you know, like heavyweight boxing. Like you're dealing with crazy power, crazy athletes. Crazy pressure, money, 96,000 people there to watch it, but your average fucking Joe thinks that he can chime in because for whatever reason, because I don't know, because the guy made it look fairly easy. But that's credit to the guy that he's fought. That's no anything to do with his lack of ability. You know what I mean? Like these guys are the best of the best up there, you know, and you don't get an Olympic gold medal given to you.
But we hear that all the time.
It's just a shame, but that's the sad thing about combat sports, man. It's like with every single person that goes and does it, like for your person stepping in for the first time to, you know, your actual champions, and it's actually quite, I suppose it's quite good in a way that even these elite guys get that kind of shit, because you're like, it just really shows you how dumb people sometimes are when it comes to this stuff, man.
Yeah. Nah, you hear it all the time, not just obviously boxing the other day, but MMA fights and stuff like that. I mean, you've been in the company of probably thousands of fucking armchair UFC fighters. Do you know what I mean? The people that'll be on their couch giving it, oh, I would have done this and I would have done that. And you're like, would you really? Do you know what I mean? So, but we hear it all the time, not just UFC or MMA. You'll hear it in grappling and do you know what I mean? Like they would have done it differently. Do you know what I mean? Like I would have done that. How did you know armbar him from that position? You're like, yeah, he was nowhere near an armbar. Do you know what I mean? So
you've got fucking guys that have, you know, maybe sniped somebody in a pub one time and claiming to be a hard man for the rest of their days. You know what I mean? Talking about how they can fucking do this or they would do that in a
Yeah.
UFC fight. They've just no idea, man. You know, there's
Uh,
fucking 15-year-olds in the gym that would make them cry.
definitely. Girls in the gym that would make them cry as well. Do you know what I mean? So,
100%,
um,
man.
but tell us about obviously you Submission Factory. You guys had the women's only open mat just recently as well,
Yes,
just
man.
last Sunday. Yeah.
Aye, so what it was I decided to my first ever jiu-jitsu coach, Scott McVeigh, he's part of the Hicks and Gracie Federation, and they
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
a thing called Women's Empowerment Day, and I noticed it was the 22nd of September, and that's obviously my birthday. So I was like, do you know what, man, I'll take that as a sign. I've got a young daughter, and I thought I'm just going to put something on regularly and hopefully grow it each year. Um, Aye, and it was really good, man. You know, we had actually a few people pull it last minute, but even at that, it was still pretty busy. And you know, some of
Yeah.
the girls that came along were really good. So that helped, you know, because it helped some of the beginners kind of, because some girls came that were pretty experienced already and you know already had some skills. So it was good
Yeah.
to kind of just, and all it was just going over some of the basics and kind of talking about you know specific self defense scenarios. Obviously, number one for self defense is just to get away from there if you possibly can, but.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of these situations. I just think like we're still at the infant sort of stages of you know martial arts for females, especially in this country at the moment. And you know when you look at this card, we've got some people really representing. You know you've got Gemma Auld and then obviously Chanel Dyer and stuff like that on
Yeah.
the card. Like she's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Um, so you've got you've got these amazing females representing, and obviously Scotland we've got Joanne Calderwood as you know our big. Our big flag, you know, that was came to the UFC very early on and made
Yeah.
waves, you know, and on the national stage and the world stage. And I think it's something that's just absolutely amazing for females to get into. And if you've got the right environment to sort of cultivate their skills and to let them grow and making sure that you know the gym environment's right for them to be able to improve, then you know it's massive and it's so good for females, I think. And because
Yeah.
you are at the early stages, I really think that you know female talent can just skyrocket right to the top pretty quickly with the right coaching and the right team.
Yeah.
Um, so I no, it went really well. So I'll be doing that every year, and just try and give back a bit on my birthday and hopefully see it grow over the years. You know, I'm just thinking like, well, obviously my daughter's 3 now, so I'm thinking like 15 years time, my daughter's going to be 18. So, you know, it'll be cool to see how far it comes by that point.
Yeah. Oh, mate, by that time, I mean, it'll be fucking huge. I mean, obviously, we saw, like, don't get me wrong, women's combat sports has been around for a long time. But then it wasn't until we seen, like, say, Ronda Rousey really took it to another level for women's martial arts, women's MMA especially. So, and then it's just kind of grew and grew and grew from there. But then it kind of took, I don't know, it took a kind of back step a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Because at one point it was quite high, and then suddenly it's kind of dropped down a little bit. But now it seems to be picking back up again.
I notice it obviously with organising the ADCC events. I feel like I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's really any gyms. I think Veronica, she's kind of leading the way. You know, Veronica Rott,
Yeah,
she's kind of leading the way a wee bit for females in the country because she's really putting it out there and trying to be like the best in the world. You know, and that's what it's all about. I feel like sometimes. In this country in particular, some of the women have kind of held themselves back by not just really going for it and being like, let's try and be the best at least in Britain, you know what I mean? Or let's try and
yeah,
be the
yeah,
best in Europe and just go for it, you know, because I notice obviously we're running these events, like how many people actually apply for them. You know, we'll only ever get a handful to two handfuls max of people applying of females applying in comparison to men, in which case you're getting, you know, over 100 applying every single time we put on an event.
yeah,
And the same goes for a lot of the sort of competition brackets. So, um, you know, obviously Fionn talks about this sort of stuff quite a lot, and the fact that the numbers are different and stuff, and it is a bit of an issue. I don't think it's necessarily an issue caused by men, though. You know, I think it's just an issue that exists, and that we need to find a solution for it because there should be better programs for females to go through, and there should be better numbers for female competitors. And I think a
yeah,
lot of that will come down to you know a lot of really good females that are competing in the country just to step up and take that leadership role in place, because
Yeah.
obviously they've got their own learning, that they're looking to do, and they're still looking to improve as martial artists. But I think like the top females that are in the country, it'd be great to see them all, and I think a lot of the girls do train together and stuff. It's just maybe not seeing the big results on the sort of the national or European scene.
Yeah.
But I've been thinking about trying to put on some stuff myself. I'm going to go and see I'm going to see if there's a market for it. I'm going to maybe put on like once a month a competition class, see if it grows. Just
Hmm.
make it free for females, because I think just putting in a bit you putting something out there to try and help them, and putting in programs out there to try and help them, and see if it gathers a bit of steam. I know there
Yeah.
is some stuff that exists already there, but no, anything help move it on.
No, definitely. Miles just saying he's a big women's MMA fan. He does a lot of, obviously, as you know, he does the fighter profiles, and obviously
Yeah.
profiles a lot of female fighters across the world. So
Mhm. Amazing.
um, does his thing, man. And Miles's profiles are always awesome. Do you know what I mean? So if you haven't seen them, guys, hit up obviously Miles Painter, as I said, on Facebook, and you'll see he does it all for MMA UK. So really gets in depth about the fighter and the fights and all that kind of stuff, and it brings the fighter to life on paper. Do you know what I mean? Which is
Mhm.
absolutely brilliant. So he's also saying as well, Rosie Sexton, a women's MMA UK staple. So
Yeah.
definitely, do you know what I mean? So
She was amazing. I do remember her
aye.
choking someone out in the early days cup in Scotland. She was doing a bit of rolling, and like it's that stuff that I think is amazing, where you really see that sort of equality, where you'll see a woman just fuck up a man on the mats, and it does it happens regularly if you've got like
It
a high
does, yeah.
level high level female. And one of my first experiences coming into the grip house when Joanne was sparring was, I remember seeing her sparring in the cage, and she was sparring like a guy, maybe a little bit heavier than herself. But I
Yeah.
just remember her like slipping a jab and nailing this dude with a straight right in the nose. And the guy kind of just slid down the cage
Uh,
like he had been nailed in an absolute belter on his arse. Do you know what I mean? On his arse, and then his nose just started gushing of blood. And again, her female instincts must have kicked in at this point. And she was like, "Oh, are you all right?" And
aye, aye,
I
aye,
just remember again, because she's obviously a really sweet person, and then fucking, you just seen the guy like, fuck.
But we see that all the time. I see that grappling, do you know what I mean? Where fucking women will come in. One of the women that's probably the first person to apply for everything, Caroline Plumley. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Oh,
she'll
aye.
fight anybody at any time,
Absolutely anybody, man.
guy or woman. Do you know what I mean? Like I've had conversations with her, and she's been like, "Oh, they couldn't get a match up for me," but do you know what I mean? Ask them if they've got a guy my weight, I'll fight a guy my weight. And you're like, "Yeah, they're
Aye.
not going to do that,
She
Caroline." Do you
said
know what I
that
mean?
to me before as well when I was struggling to get her matched, and I think her daughter's going the same way. Her daughter's been doing really well. She's putting
Yeah,
herself out there, really doing a lot of traveling and improving. She's been done a wee bit of training with herself as well, and
yeah,
it's stuff that's really encouraging. Like I said, there was a young female, I don't bother naming names and stuff like that, but there was a young female at one of my seminars recently. She was like 14-year-old, and she was absolutely lethal.
yeah,
Absolutely lethal. Do you know what I mean? Like just killer instinct, jumping on chokes and stuff like that. And when you see that, it's encouraging. You
yeah,
go, right, okay, there is going to be a big rise in the country. And the thing is, the nowadays, especially, like the coaching's there for it. There's so many great clubs out there,
yeah,
for people to flourish and people to develop their skill sets. So I do think there's going to be a big rise in the years to come, and a lot of
yeah.
great role models out there already in Scotland and the UK for young females that are looking to get into martial arts.
No, definitely, definitely. Takes us on obviously like the PFL card. I mean, PFL, I'd say they've got some amazing fights that have been set up for a while now. So obviously we're talking about females. So obviously the first fighter we've got, or the first fight that's going to be on the card, is going to be the Gemma Auld fight. So Gemma Auld
Brutal.
against, I hope I say this right, Veronica Petuska, right? I hope I say that right. So Gemma's one of these fighters. I've seen Gemma. I've been watching Gemma since before she did her very first MMA fight. So
Mhm.
she obviously was in. She did some grappling and stuff like that. Obviously training under Neil Laird, the Ayrshire Hit Squad.
I was
So
going to say she started majority of her career at Ayrshire hit squad, didn't she? And she's
yeah,
recently moved to higher level.
recently moved there. But she, as I said, I remember seeing her grappling. She was on TKC, so Total Combat. That
Hmm.
was the very first one, and that was I think like November 22. I think it was around about November 22. And I remember seeing her and obviously chatting away to her, and then obviously did her very first MMA fight, and I was there for that. So I was there from the beginning and got to see how she's progressed all the way
Aye,
through, even up until she's joined higher level. And I mean, she's definitely. I call her. She gets embarrassed by this, right? But obviously, I was like, Joanne Calderwood retired, so there's
yeah,
a new queen of Scottish MMA, and it's Gemma
nice.
Holt.
I
Do you know what
like
I mean?
that.
So
Aye.
respectful, very very respectful. So, but she gets embarrassed by it. So,
Yeah.
but she definitely is. She's the number one female probably coming out of Scotland at the moment.
Well, she's definitely making waves. You look at like you know how much she's racked up 6 wins as an amateur just in a short space of time. There, it's only took her, you know, from sort of January 23 to April 24, and she's wrapped
Yeah,
up 6 wins. That's pretty active, you know, and
yeah,
you know
yeah,
she's finished the majority of opponents as well. So
yeah,
that's that's pretty awesome, and it's good that she's got a few decisions in there as well, where she's been able to go the distance and obviously get the cage time as well. But 3 subs and a TKO as well on top of that is pretty awesome.
yeah, yeah. I'd say I think she's what four promotion champion. I think she's Goliath champion,
Mhm.
um, Almighty champion, if I'm right, and a
Yeah, she
couple other
picked up
ones.
one
So
down south as well. Yeah,
yeah, so she's a 4-time champion, and obviously she's done a few fights in Scotland, obviously under Goliath, but then the rest of the fights been down south. So it's going to be a massive step. I mean, for a pro debut on a PFL card in front of I don't know how many thousand people are going to be there. So do you know what I mean? But again, I spoke to her and she said, "Do you know what? She's visioned this. She's
yeah,
visioned exactly what's going to happen. Obviously, James Doolan, as you know, is brilliant for painting pictures of what it's
yeah.
going to be as you're walking out. So, but she's more than ready for it. So,
100%. You know, she has got a tough matchup coming up, you know, but like I say, it's got to be an amazing feeling walking out there for your pro debut in the hydro, and you know, you're coming off 6 wins anyway, you know, so
yeah,
you're ready to put in. She's been obviously prepping with all the legends and stuff as well. So she's gonna be ready to showcase her skills. You know, she has got a hard fight coming up. Obviously, her opponents, you know, got quite a bit of experience as well. You know, her opponents, I think, 14, 13 different, yeah, sorry, 14 amateur fights. So that's
yeah,
going to be, you know, pretty tough. And I had a wee glance at our opponent's record, and you know, I think our opponents kind of took on quite a lot of tough fights. You know, finished her amateur career with a win over a 3-0, you know, opponent, and finished a 3-0 fighter in the first round. So
yeah,
loads, and she seems like she's got a sort of submission based game. A lot of our wins come from submissions. So be interesting, you know, a lot of the time in Poland they are very active. But like I say, our opponent has had losses, you know, so that's a big bonus for Gemma, because she's going to be able to look at these holes and exploit them, and you know, see how she's going to implement her game plan and be able to get the hand raised.
yeah. It's going to be the same for obviously an opponent as well, because opponent's doing a pro debut as well. So coming out
Yeah,
PFL, walking out in front of, I don't know, 10, 15,000 people or whatever the many people's going to be there. So she's going to have the same fucking thoughts going through her head as well. Obviously, there'll be the opposite because Gemma's going to come out to an absolute, the crowd's going to be going crazy. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Whereas obviously an opponent will be coming out, she might not have, she's definitely not going to have the same reaction. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
So that might kind of put her off a little bit as well.
Aye, it's bound to be quite daunting going into somebody sort of in their territory and hearing obviously all the fans and stuff like that. Some people are encouraged by it and prefer it, and some people. I was talking to Chris Bungard about that recently when we were saying about me going over to Finland and stuff, and I was saying the same thing. Like, I actually quite enjoy it, you know, being the sort of in the enemy territory, and no having, you know, I could maybe got. I actually only had 2 people there to cheer me on, and I could actually still hear them over everybody. That's Scotland for you.
But that's the thing. I mean, the Scottish crowd. I mean, there's nothing like it. There's absolutely nothing like it at all. Do you know what I mean? I remember the UFCs, and do you know what I mean? I remember like Stevie walking out, man, the place going mental, and then when Stevie won
Oh, man, that's
the
going to be
match,
wild.
yeah, yeah, there was people throwing, and bearing in mind this is at the fucking the pints were like 8, 9, 10 quid a
Mm.
pint, and
Yeah.
people are throwing full pints. Do you know what I mean? You're like, That was like throwing 10 quid away. Just there you go, there you go. So it's going to be the same on Saturday night as well. It's going to be fucking
I really,
an
really,
amazing
really,
feeling.
really, like, if anybody's listening that's going to be watching that show, I really, really hope we get the Stevie fucking Ray chance on the go, man. You know, like a lot of people, if they remember the early days of Stevie's career, you know,
Yeah,
he was. He used to bring over 100 people, you know, to local shows. You'd get buses for coming for Kirkcaldy, and you would just, you know, you'd hear the Stevie fucking Ray chants as he was fighting, and you know, definitely it spurs you on, that sort of stuff. You know, you would see it with some of the fights that he had, and he would just keep battling and overcome so much adversity. So, you know, I'm looking forward to hearing that as he comes out and gets fighting. It's going to be pretty cool.
definitely.
Nice call from Miles here. All round
Yeah,
two PKO, the new Queen Reigns Supreme. I like that. I think that's a good call. I
yeah,
reckon
yeah.
that's there.
I think definitely round two, and I tell you why, because I think she's going to go out. She's going to feel her opponent out. Do you know what I mean? And then she's going to go for it. Do you know what I mean? Like anytime I've seen Gemma. Obviously, the 6 fights I've seen her in. Do you know what I mean? I've seen her going for it, right, and obviously finishing her opponents early, and I've seen her then just take her time a little bit more. And do you know what I mean? As she eases on into the fight, so I think this will be very similar. I think
Got a
she'll
wee
ease.
visitor here. You okay, buddy? Hey, Daddy's just on a wee phone call. Ah.
But I think she'll ease into it. Do you know what I mean? She'll go in, see what the first round's like, get a feel for it, and then she's going to come out in the second and definitely finish her. I think it'll be a submission. I think Gemma will finish her with a submission. There we go. Eh?
You think
uh,
submission, no TKO?
no, I think it's a submission. I think she's either gonna. It's going
You
to be an
got
armbar, maybe an armbar or a rear naked choke. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
So. I think second round definitely submission. Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, either way, man, it's going to be an amazing, amazing feeling for Gemma. Do you know what I mean? I was talking to her as well. I was like, my worry was, do you know what I mean? Did she go pro too quickly? Do you know what I mean? But
I,
then it's that.
I, I don't think so, man. See, for the same kind of thing we were talking about, for
Yeah,
females, it's quite hard for them to get fights, and I think she was struggling to get fights at amateur.
she was. Aye.
That's one of the tough things about it. So it is, if your skills are there and you're at the right team and you're
Yeah,
improving and stuff, then just make the move and go for it. You know, it's like
yeah,
I think some people that can work a lot better, especially
yeah,
in that situation. Flyweights can be quite similar as well. It's hard to get
yeah.
the fights.
She did talk about it when I spoke to her about it, and I said, "Look, does it feel a bit early?" And she said the same thing. She's like, "You know what? I couldn't get fights. I couldn't get
Mhm.
fights at all. There's nobody want to fight a 6-0 for promotion champion. They don't
Yeah.
want to do it. Do you know what I mean? Like even at amateur, you know yourself, amateur's the time where you make the mistakes and get the mistakes out of the way. So when you become
Mhm.
a pro, then do you know what I mean? You've had that loss. Do you know what I mean? You've been through absolute wars. You've had quick fights and all that kind of stuff. So, but she's 100% ready, and she's at higher level. I mean, there's no better place to be. Do you know what I mean? Than higher level with the level of talent that's coming out of higher level at the moment. Do you know what I mean? So, so I definitely think. I mean, she's got a huge future ahead of her. Definitely a huge future. So,
Yeah,
um,
100% for sure.
and then takes us on to the next one then. So moving on to the card then, we have Matis Zaharovs, right? Against obviously fucking my favourite guy, man. My favourite guy, Brian Hislop. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I
He's
had the pleasure,
a real
yeah,
OG.
yeah. I had the pleasure of chatting with him. Obviously, we did a chat for the show, and do you know what I mean? Like, he's my type of guy. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love that type of character. I love the type of person he is, just walking out and be like, I'm not going to swear because
Aye.
obviously kids in the background there, mob, right? But
Cheers.
just, just doesn't care, man. Just comes out and he's coming out with only one thing in his head that I'm going to destroy whoever it is that's standing in front of me. Do you know what I mean? So
100%. Like, yes, he doesn't mess about. He doesn't mix his words. You know, he's a real guy, and you know, he's prepared really, really hard for this. He's been preparing for it for a long time. It's been something that he's
yeah,
been visualizing for a long time. So it's not like it's something short notice. You know, a lot of people would obviously look at the time out that he's had and think, "Oh, that's a big ask." But you know, he has had that time out, but he's also started preparing for this a long time ago. So he's,
yeah,
you know, he's well into camp. He's been training with all the best guys. One of his best mates is Robert Whiteford, you know, so he's fully prepared for that. And then on top of that, he's he's been doing training really everywhere. He's been training at
Yeah,
the boxing clubs. He's been training at higher levels, so he's been getting all different types of looks and training partners, sparring partners in, and really, putting himself through his paces and testing himself, doing all the hard work that you need to do. Um, so like I'm looking forward to seeing him putting hands on the guy.
yeah, yeah. No, I'd say that. Do you know what I mean? When I spoke to him, I mean that's one thing again we spoke of, like ring rust. Do you know what I mean? And he's like, do you know what I mean? He said that there's no such thing as ring rust. He says you're either ready to do it, you're not ready. Do you know what I mean? If you
100%. I say
so
that to people all the time. It's like maybe you'll be a wee bit, maybe sometimes you can be a wee bit slower or no thinking the same and stuff like that. But the reality is, like I always used to say, like if somebody walked up and cracked you in the street, would you start fighting with them? 100% you would. So it's
yeah,
going to be the exact same when you're in there. Somebody punches you, you're in a fight. That's it.
yeah, yeah. Nah, I'm buzzing for it. His opponent, do you know much about the opponent at all?
Aye, I had a bit of a look at him actually. He does look a very dangerous opponent. Obviously, their records are bang on even, but the guy's had quite a lot of fights more recently.
Yeah,
He is bantamweight, so that's something that is a bit of a factor. I noticed obviously he's quite a big guy, but I've done a bit of sparring and training with him myself, and you do not want cracked off him. That's the thing.
yeah,
Like he's got serious hands and he's good everywhere, but he's got serious hands on him, so he's more than capable of sparking anybody out cold.
yeah,
And sometimes, being taller, that can actually be a disadvantage because Hesse's got absolutely no problem covering distance. So
yeah,
with a guy being taller, he might think that he's got that range advantage, but at the same time, Brian can just explode into range and work his way in. Maybe the guy misses a shot and he counters with some nice punches his own. So I'm looking forward to seeing him going in and getting the job done. And obviously it's a massive opportunity for him getting back in there because, I think when Brian was doing the sport, there wasn't as many opportunities, kind of similar to when I had just started fighting pro. The
yeah,
chances of fighting in the hydro were like you would really need to be hoping to be like top level UFC at the time to get an opportunity like that. And now there's so many amazing opportunities out there for fighters that no wonder he wants to get a piece of the pie and get himself back in about it. I kind of feel the same way. It's like, well, you've got an able working body, you want to keep doing it, especially now that there's more platforms out there for fighters, which is brilliant.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know. So I feel the same about that as well, and I'm looking forward to it. I had a wee look at his opponent there, and he does look a very dangerous guy. So um, Matty Zaroff, I was having a wee look at some of his wins, some of his losses. Obviously 6-3 as a professional. He is coming off a loss, a unanimous decision against a very good fighter.
yeah,
Um, Prior to that, he's got some, and a lot of his wins has also been sort of TKOs and KOs. So he
yeah,
looks like he's, a bit more of a striker himself, actually. And his losses only seem to be a unanimous decision. So he's one submission loss at amateur, but other than that, it's all been unanimous decisions. So people, I don't really look at a unanimous decision loss as even a loss for a fighter, and like if we're talking long term, because they've had 15 minutes of cage time. So anytime somebody goes the distance, it's like it's a lot, eh? I
yeah,
seen that he's defeated Josh Reed at PFL debut, so that's
yeah,
Josh Reed's a bit of a veteran, so obviously a really solid fighter there as well. Um, but 100%, Brian's got the ability to knock anybody out, man.
yeah. Miles, just his predictions, just saying Zarov's via split decision. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I don't know. I spoke to Brian, right? And see, the thing is, you know yourself, Mop. You get a feeling for someone by when you're talking to them. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like you know how the fight's going to go when you have a conversation with somebody. Do you know what I mean? And see, when I spoke to Brian, and don't get me wrong, it was a few weeks ago now, right?
Hmm.
So, and just hearing the way he was talking and do you know what I mean? Hearing the, do you know what I mean? Him talking about how the fight's going to go. Do you know what I mean? He
Yeah.
played it out in his head, and as you said, he's been preparing for this for a long time, and he's been visioning what he's going to do for a long, long time. Do you know what I mean? He's had a number of years for this going through his head, so, and here he is. So I don't know, man. I definitely think Brian. Do you know what I mean? And I think it'll go a couple of rounds as well. I don't see it going the distance at all. Do you know what I mean? So I think Brian definitely within a couple of rounds.
I think one of the things that will be a wee bit um, maybe deceptive is the speed of Brian as well. I think a lot of people don't realise how fast he actually is.
Yeah.
So that should be really interesting. I'm never going to back against my man Hissy. Do you know what I mean? He's a great guy and a great fighter as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing him putting some leather to the chin.
Aye. He's got one thing that you've no got, Mop, right? Is wee man syndrome. Do you know what I mean? Look, you'll not understand that, Mop. I understand it, right? But wee
It's a
man
powerful
syndrome.
driving force.
That's better than any heart you can have, man. Wee
I know.
man
I've
syndrome. Do
got
you
the
know
opposite, man. I've got laid back tall guy syndrome.
what I mean? But no, Brian's an awesome guy. As you wish him all the best tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? So I know
100%.
he's been wanting to do this for a long time. He wants to be here, and he's not going to give up
Oh, he
this
deserves the
opportunity.
opportunity because he
Yeah,
took on all the big fights early on in his career. He fought some of the best guys in the scene back in the day,
yeah,
and obviously he's been back in the game. He's been through a lot in life in general. He's hungry to come back, get in the cage, and get it done. And this could be
yeah,
a new lease of life on him. He's got a family to provide for and stuff like that. So a massive driving force there for him.
yeah,
I know that his intentions are really really good as well. He wants to do this for his family. He wants to do this and showcase who he is, and he's more than capable of going out and getting the job done. So I can't wait to see him get it done.
definitely, definitely. Then takes on to the next card. So this fight only got announced yesterday. So Lorenzo Parenti up against Stefano Catacoli. So
Yeah,
Lorenzo's one of these guys, man, and I absolutely love watching and seeing Lorenzo out there because, especially since he moved to higher level, do you know what I mean? Things just seem to change for him. He's been on. I think he's only had one loss since he's been at higher level. I think it's maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 fights.
yeah, I
So
think that was right, quite early at the start as well. And
yeah,
like I can still remember in the chat when we're talking about him coming to the gym,
yeah,
and a few guys were saying like, "What do you think?" And I had obviously refed a few of his fights at that point, and I always thought he had massive potential. He always had good striking and good jiu-jitsu.
yeah,
Good, especially in particular boxing. And then obviously having trained with him since then and stuff, and just seeing him progress in his fights, he's brilliant. He won that. He absolutely walked through the Four Nations as well. At
yeah,
amateur, and like that's a high level amateur tournament. And
yeah,
he was going against the best guys in the country, and he was making it look pretty effortless, to be honest. And
yeah,
since he started his pro career, he's been the same way. So he's a guy that's absolutely risen, and he's just continuously getting better. And he's still a young man as well. So it's
yeah,
going to be pretty cool. He's in there with the best guys, day in, day out, training, getting better. I know he's one of these guys that's in the gym constantly improving. He's just constantly working on his craft. He's always training to get better. He's not one of these dudes doing fight camps and then stopping, doing fight camps and stopping. He's constantly
yeah,
just on the rise, and he's had all the hard fights at amateur. Massive experience at amateur as well. So I know his opponent maybe looks like he's got quite a bit more experience in terms of professional.
mhm,
But Lorenzo's also going in there as an undefeated professional, and he's
yeah,
got that massive amateur background where he's already been able to gain the experience, and it just shows the kind of sort of bottle that he's got taking that fight on short notice, because he was
yeah.
obviously struggling to get anybody, and the dude that stepped up, got quite a big record.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. I still remember. I mean, I talk about this story all the time. I remember it was Holytown Havoc, the first Holytown Havoc, and Lorenzo fought. I think it was Ryan Campbell. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, I don't know what happened. I'd never seen it before with Lorenzo. Do you know what I mean? But he couldn't come out for. I think it was round three.
Mm.
He couldn't come out at all, and then I remember going to check. Obviously, he went into the back, and I think it was with his girlfriend. So he was with someone, and I remember going back, and he was clearly upset. Do you know what I mean? He was
Ah,
like, and that's the thing. That's the thing that people don't get to see. Do you know what I mean? Like,
aye. Stuff like that
because
stays with you, like
yeah,
because you know yourself, like no matter what happens in a fight or what people see or what people say about a fight, it's like
yeah,
you know yourself. You know whether you could have done more. You know whether you could have done less. It's you that
yeah,
always lives with that. So, and it's all and like I say, I don't think anything. When something happens in a fight, it's more
yeah,
about how you respond to it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's whatever happens. But then I do believe that you then have the choice to say, right, I'm going to do this moving forward, and
yeah,
you can make that decision. And you can see that in his performances that he's
yeah,
made the decision to change the way that he approaches martial arts and competition, and he's just came on leaps and leaps and bounds. He's a completely different fighter to he's ever been in the past.
yeah,
He's got I think he's got a massive future in the sport.
Since then, since that fight all with Havoc, as I said, he's went on. He's only lost once. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Because that was the lowest point that for him as a fighter that he
aye.
probably could have got to. Do you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, we've all been there. Everybody's been there. They've been at them low moments. But then,
Mhm.
as you said, it was how he came back from it, and he's came back and he's on fire at the moment, man. There's nothing that boy can't do. And as you said, he's hugely talented. He's still young. Do you know what I mean? See, when you look
Aye.
at how old he is, and you think, and you look at his record, and you think, how the fuck? Because I think he started fighting at what 16. Do you
Well,
know what I mean?
that's it. He's, he does come from a fighting family. That's the thing.
Yeah,
He comes from a fighting family. Those guys, they were encouraged him to fight for a young age. He was kind of born into martial arts. I think he was one of the first to kind of start venturing, and he done a bit of jiu-jitsu at CVA, and he was kind of learning his craft here or there, and then he's obviously
yeah,
went to higher level and where he can, one-stop shop and improve everything. But he already
yeah,
came there with a really good skill set, and it was just about sort of filling in the gaps. And then, overall, he's so good everywhere.
yeah, yeah,
Talk about scrambles. Like, I think he's one of the best scramblers you're going to see on the scene. Like,
yeah,
he's amazing in grappling exchanges and stuff, as well as having really good striking. So, I'm really looking forward to his fight, man. I think he's one of the most exciting fighters there. Parenti round three, ATC. Um,
yeah. ATC. Miles, you need to let me know what ATC is.
Me too,
so,
unfortunately.
but I don't know if he talked about decision or what he's talking about. But we'll find out in just a second. But I don't know, man. Again, I don't see it going to decision. Do you know what I mean? I don't. I honestly
I
don't
think
see it going
Lorenzo
to decision.
stops the boy as well, but I do think it'll take him a couple of rounds to get the boy out
Yeah,
of there. But
yeah.
I do. I think he's going to sub him in the third.
Is it going to be that pressure? I mean, as you talked about he's grappling and all that. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be far too much for the guy. And that's what I think anyway. And he's just going to tire the guy out because
Aye.
Lorenzo's got a fucking gas tank like nobody
That's
else.
it. He can scramble for fun. I think he
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
really enjoys it, and
yeah,
he can just cycle through there, wear the guy out and finish him.
yeah.
I think the opportunity's definitely there for him.
Definitely. And then takes on to the next matchup then. So we got Mark Ewan. Do you know what I mean? Up against Yasin Gatatu. Gatatu. Hopefully I say that right. But yeah, Mark Ewan. So sorry, Miles just saying arm triangle choke. Right. So yeah,
Aye,
arm
that's
triangle.
a wee specialty there. I think you could be right,
Yeah,
man. That or an RNC. So
yeah, yeah. So arm
one or
triangle
the
choke.
other.
So, but yeah, Mark Ewan. Obviously Mark Ewan coming off a loss recently as well. So, but then again, Mark's always been one of these guys. I mean, you see him in the gym, you see him in fights, and he's always been one guy who seems to get better and better and better as time goes on. I know, as I say, the higher up he goes, the harder the opponents get. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, the boy he fought last time was a very, very good fighter.
yeah,
He had a lot of power in his hands, and it was and even at that, it was like a back and forth matchup. It was
yeah,
razor thin, and it went the distance. So even looking at that, it's like this dude that he's fighting isn't going to be on the level of his last opponent. And if you know Mark and you know how much he's dedicated to the sport, then you know that he's going to be a completely different animal coming into this
yeah,
one.
yeah,
Um, I expect nothing other than a first round knockout.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think you're going to see cold take just a cold KO,
yeah,
just stalking his opponent, hitting him, hurting him, getting him biting off the fakes. And when the boy misses, he's going to pay for it. And I think you're going to see the guy's lights go out pretty early. And
yeah,
I really don't see anything other than a first round stoppage for Mark. I think it's going to be. I think that one's going to really be like the standout performance of the full event. I think it's going to be pretty cool to see him showcase his abilities in Scotland, in front of everybody.
yeah,
Mark's destined to be a big star, man. hundred
yeah.
percent. He's so good, so good, so talented, so hardworking, so dedicated, great mindset. He's got everything that you need to be the best. So that's going to be cool to see.
Yeah, yeah, he's definitely a guy I love to see. Do you know what I mean? And do you know what I mean? I've been fortunate enough to be able to see him a few times. I remember his debut. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, his pro debut at Holy Town Havoc. I remember seeing that where he put Michael Blair. He knocked Michael Blair out. Do you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think it was like second round or something. Do you know what I mean? But
And
Um,
Michael Blair's a great fighter himself.
yeah, yeah, because they were two fighters that were supposed to fight at amateur, but it never happened. And then
Mm.
suddenly the two of them were. And I remember I remember seeing the matchup and thinking, man, who's putting these two guys? Because these were the two of the best guys in Scotland at the time.
Aye,
Do you know what I mean?
just
Turning pro.
big bottle for the fact that they were willing to take those
Yeah,
fights
yeah,
that early on in their career. Like a lot of people will avoid those kind of fights, but yeah, they've credit to both guys that they were actually up for saying, no, I think I'm the best, you know
yeah,
what I mean, and getting himself out there.
yeah, yeah. And I remember he had to rush out the door very quickly because
Yeah.
Holy Town Havoc's obviously a Scottish hit squad show. Do you know what I mean? And
Aye.
when Mark won, I remember he got very, very excited
It's a
in the
hostile
cage.
environment, like that's.
So
I like that. I like that about it. It's a bit like the Alloa Town Hall. You know what I mean? You're not going to come to the Alloa Town Hall and be hanging about long. You end up fucking lynched or something. It's
yeah, yeah. So I he had to rush out the door pretty quickly, which but it was awesome. And as I said, I think he's definitely a huge star in the making. Do you know what I mean? So he's already been
100%.
he's been doing it for years. He's been building it and building this for years. So now we're
Yeah,
getting to
I
see.
refed a lot of his early fights as an amateur, and I can remember even then, like he did have a bit of, even like when he was still, he would maybe pick up the odd loss, but he still had an aura about him. I still felt like he always had this energy about him that was like, like he was destined for it. So I think it's going to be pretty amazing to see him showcase his skill set.
Definitely, definitely. One fight, obviously, Myles coming in just with his prediction, just saying, yeah, Ewan rights the ship. Round one TKO, definitely. I don't think it's going to go any further past the first round either. And obviously, Mop, you're exactly the same. One round, and Mark gets the
I
win.
was I was trying to get a bet on it, man. I've been looking to see if there's anywhere taking bets, but I can't actually find anywhere that's taking bets on it. So
Yeah.
maybe Miles, if you know anything, let me know, man, because I'll be putting fucking money on that.
Definitely, definitely. One fighter as well. I know we're not going to mention it, but one fighter I want to talk about, Chanel Dyer. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Now, Chanel Dyer, I watched. I don't know if you'd seen the documentary, the BBC documentary where she was
Mhm.
on it, and do you know what I mean? It was just kind of seeing her at home and then seeing her in the cage, and she's two different people. I mean, see when
Mhm.
you see her at home, she's like, I think she was only about 16, 17 at the time, and she was just a kid, and then she was going in there and she was smoking fucking women. Do you know what I mean? Grown women. So, and again, we've seen her at PFL, the last PFL with that fucking head kick knockout. It was
I think
just
she's a
like,
future world
wow, man.
champion.
Yeah,
I think she's a future world champion for sure. I think she's going to be a UFC world champion, man. I've watched her a fair bit, and um, just looking at the way that she trains and her performances and stuff like that, I really do. I think she's going to be one of the, well, that'll be the first, won't it? So first UK female world champion. I think she'll get there.
yeah, 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 yeah,
And,
definitely.
and and I think enough people know that as well, that her career will be managed the right way to the point that she'll get there. So just
Yeah.
a new test every time, and a step up every time, and she'll rise to the occasion with it.
Yeah, I got to spend some time with her when she was up with. She was up at TKC. Obviously, they came up to watch. What was the girl's name? I keep forgetting the girl's name, man. But she was up with the Italian girl, obviously Kate Bacek and all that. But they were all up at the same time. Do you know what I
Aye.
mean? Oh, she's going to kill me, the girl, because I forgot her name. Oh no! So she's going to kill me. But obviously, got to spend time with them and chat away with them and stuff like that. And such really, really nice girl, man. Really, really down to earth as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
She spends time talking to everybody. Do you know what I mean? It won't be a case of she'll come in and won't talk to anybody. No, no, she'll come in and she'll spend time with everybody, and then yeah, just a really nice people and really nice
Yeah.
gym and setup and stuff like that as well. So definitely a future champion for sure. So and then next fight then. So one of your boys, a guy you know very well, Robert Whiteford and Roger Huerta. Now
Aye.
that matchup is as good as it sounds. It's definitely as good as it sounds. So
Aye, that's like anybody that knows the sport, that's been around the sport for a long time, knows what a legend, you know, both Robert Lightford and Roger Huerta are.
yeah,
Robert obviously being the first Scottish fighter to ever make it to the UFC. And Roger Huerta, I mean, he's been around since the very, very early days. So I think it's a fitting fight for Robert, to be going against a legend like that. Like, see, when you look at Roger Huerta's record and some of the names that are on there, it's crazy. Like some of the guys that he's fought, having a wee glance now, and it's just like he's just had so many old school fights here with Alberto Crane. It's like these are like old school legends. Obviously, like Clay Guida back in the day, Kenny Florian, Gray Maynard, Pat Curran, Eddie Alvarez, War Machine. These are guys that he's fought, which is just crazy. Patricio Pitbull, Ben Henderson, and then obviously Robert's going to go there and add to that with a nice wee win on his record to end his career. And Robert's the first guy I ever looked up to into a gym. He just trained with a different intensity to anybody that was in the gym at the time. And he made from when he made the decision. When I first joined Hostile Territory back in the day with the legendary Josh Gavin, you know I kind of came into that gym, and there was a few big MMA shows in Scotland at the time. It was like Absolute Combat and stuff. So these were some of the first events that I attended, and were massive events at Meadowbank and stuff as well. They were really all pro cards and whatnot as well, which
Yeah.
there wasn't much at the time. And when we went in there, Robert was just training with a crazy intensity, and I remember he had lost to Bobby McVitie on his pro debut due to
Yeah.
a cut. And this kind of gave me this sort of just gave me an insight as to what I was getting myself into with MMA, because for the rest of his fights for a good few years, he used to dye his hair red so that if he got a cut, that the ref wouldn't stop it. You know what I mean? So just so that if there was blood,
Aye.
it wouldn't have
Aye.
mattered anyway. You wouldn't have been able to tell.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I thought that's what you're dealing with mentality, because he wanted to fight until rendered unconscious, and I get that. Like, I would have been raging in my fight there if I'd been stopped for a cut. It's
Yeah.
like, because cuts don't actually hurt. You know what I mean? It's not like you feel, especially if it's in the middle of your head where it's not going into your eyes or nothing like that. It doesn't hurt. It's just a wound.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's nothing stopping you for keeping on fighting. So that's what had happened to him. Obviously, an elbow had cut him, and the fight got stopped for that, but he was still ready to keep fighting.
Yeah.
And obviously ended up with a loss in his record for that. And he done everything to prevent that in future. And he just went on a crazy run, and I think that was when he made the decision that he wanted to be in the UFC. And you just seen him training with a crazy intensity, and he took the hard route, which actually you see that with Stevie Ray, you see that with Danny Henry, you see that with the guys that made it to the UFC.
Yeah.
He didn't ever take any easy fights. He literally just ran through the hardest guys in the UK and Europe.
Yeah.
And he done it on the space of like 2 years,
Yeah.
from when he made the decision that that's what he was going after. And obviously, he was a Commonwealth judoka as well. So
Hmm.
I think that, when you start dealing with people that have got that championship mindset where they've already competed at a high level, these people are just willing to make the sacrifices more than what your average Joe is a lot of the time, because they're so used to competition.
Yeah.
I found that with having Josh as a coach. To start with, Josh was a world champion. And
Yeah.
when you in judo, and when you find that, I think people that are world champions just think completely differently to other people. They know what it takes to be. You see it with Big Mark McQueen as well. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
when somebody becomes a world champion at something, they know what it takes to become a world champion, so they can take that exact same blueprint and transfer it to something else. And
Yeah.
and I feel like that's what Robert was able to benefit from. He took all the stuff he already knew, and then just went and kept developing his skill set. And you obviously seen he was one of the first guys to move out to American top team, and
Yeah.
really just saying, you know what, let's go out here and learn for the best guys, and learn it for myself, and learn for the guys that are, fighting for world titles in the UFC, and really just throw himself right into the lion's den. I think he always knew that he started fighting professional quite late on in his life,
Hmm.
so I think he knew he was in a rush against time, and he just had to put the work in more than everybody else to get there. And it paid dividends, seeing how his career progressed and some of the
Yeah.
amazing guys that he's fought, and obviously his career in the UFC and stuff like that. Like, for me personally, it was amazing to watch that,
Yeah.
and it inspired me massively at the start of my career. And I got to get some training with him, a year or two back, and he's still an absolute monster, you know. And you notice he really spent a lot of time mentoring Chris Duncan as well,
Yeah.
who's also fighting in the UFC in Paris this weekend. So not to give him a miss because it'll be good to see him pick up the W this weekend as well. But
Yeah,
I think it's pretty amazing because he kind of led the way, showed a different way for other fighters to do it. And Robert's a low key guy. He's not looking for any attention. He's not looking for any social media praise. I don't think he
yeah,
really cares about any of that stuff. He just loves to fight. And
yeah,
other than that, he's got a few close friends and family. He looks after, he's obviously looking after his family and looks at it as a way to provide. And I just pretty amazing guy. That sort of stuff is what the other characters I love about MMA. You know what I mean? Like just zero bullshit. Like Robert will never bullshit anybody with anything, and that's just how he is. Straight to the point. Gets on with his business. Goes and gets it done. You'll struggle to ever meet a harder man than that.
yeah, yeah. As he did a lot, as you said, train a lot with Chris Duncan recently. Brian Hislop as well. Do you know what I mean? So they've
Yeah,
obviously had a lot of good rounds over there at MXP. So and yeah, I mean, I remember Robert over the years. Do you know what I mean? I remember him at the UFC in Scotland, and do you know what I mean? He was just great. I remember when he won. I remember him jumping out the fucking cage. Do you know what I mean? They had to go after him to
yeah,
bring him back into the cage. Do you know what I mean? So, but he
that's
ran
right.
in
He
and he
got the
jumped into
KO.
his, yeah, he jumped into his people, man, and the whole place went fucking crazy. Do you know what I mean? And that was the thing, man. He wanted to go and celebrate with his people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's my people. I'm going there. Nobody stopped me from going over there. So, very,
he's
very
he's
passionate as well. So,
a lifetime athlete, completely dedicated to it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And it's a great fight for him fighting against another legend there as well. So
yeah,
it's the sort of fight he deserves in his hometown. And or his home country. It's going to be amazing to see. Aye,
definitely.
I believe that. Whiteford rides off into the sunset, saying RNC round two. I think he's going to ride off into the sunset with a KO.
Yeah,
That's what I think. I think he's going to put a lot of people didn't realise with Rab, but he's fucking got dynamite in his hands, man. So
yeah, yeah,
I think that's what's going to happen. Like if you seen. He's got a few fights where it's just been crazy, where he gets in these wild exchanges and he's just got fucking dynamite in his hands, man. And
yeah,
he used to say that even early on. Like I can remember him saying, like, I don't really give a fuck if somebody punches me. He used to say,
yeah,
as long they can hit me twice if they want, as long as I can land one,
yeah.
I'll be happy. And he knows that if he lands one, they're probably not going to be standing.
Yeah, yeah. Plus Roger Huerta, he's going to stand and bang with you. He'll stand and bang. Do you know what I
Oh,
mean?
I man,
So
like he's not coming out, for not being as active to have a big fight like this and no go for it. So
yeah,
it's going to be cool. I mean, Roger Herter was like back in the day thought as the man at that weight class. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So like, there's got to be part of Robert that's like, fuck yeah, I want to fight this guy. Like I doubt he's going to give him any extra respect until after he's beat him. But there's when Robert was first getting into the sport, like Roger Herter was the guy at that weight class. Everybody was heavily backing him and stuff, and
yeah,
he
yeah,
was obviously they were looking at him to be the next big massive star. So he always had a big presence.
yeah. Big platform he had as well. Do you know what I mean? Didn't quite
Yeah.
make it up there, which was a bit disappointing. But that's the level of the sport, is it? Do you know what I mean? So
Aye, that just the 145 and 155 in general is just full of absolute killers,
yeah,
constantly. But I think that's an amazing fight, for them both to showcase their skills and
yeah.
for Robert to ride off into the sunset, like you say.
Definitely, definitely. I think the same. Do you know what I mean? I don't know, man. I think it might go quick. It might go quick. I reckon maybe around first round. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, I've got Robert, man. Do you know what I mean? I've seen
Yeah.
Robert fight in the past. Do you know what I mean? Again, he's one of these guys. He doesn't do a lot of media stuff, as you say. He doesn't do a lot of social media stuff because he does his talking in the cage. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
So yeah, I think he'll do it in round one because I think the two of them are going to come out and they're going to have that. You know yourself. You're standing across from someone and you just kind of look at each other and you know exactly what you're going to do. Do you know what I mean? And I think they're going to look at each other and be like, right, let's do this. Let's do this. And do you know what I mean?
Aye.
Co-main event, they're just going to blow the roof off the place. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
So,
Going to be some fight for sure.
yeah. And then before we go into the main event, obviously Myles want to talk about one fight. So it's the bantamweight playoffs between Julian Lopez and Alexander Luster.
Hmm.
So obviously these two guys going at it. Now again, I didn't really look at too much about these guys. So let's. But obviously they're in the bantamweight playoffs. So obviously again, good level. And again, that looking at that bantamweight playoff, mean, the other one you got Lewis McGrill and Dean Garnett. Do you know what I mean? So
Aye, that's
obviously
a cool
Julian
fight.
Lopez.
I thought Dean was supposed to fight somebody else, to be honest. I thought he was supposed to fight I think it was like a Polish dude. Um but I don't know if maybe he's had a pull out as well, because
Yeah,
they met in Newcastle. Those guys actually ended up meeting in the cage.
it was a
Um
guy called Federico Fasciano. I think he's Italian
yeah,
guy. So
that
he
looked
was.
like a great fight. It looked like a great fight, but because I remember them squaring off and thinking that's going to be a cool one. But even at that, it's still going to be a pretty amazing fight. Like both guys are really, really good there. So, but I
Yeah,
think that I think that Dean has got the advantage there. Obviously, I think he's ranked number 15 there, so I think he's got a bit of an advantage. I see him picking up the win there. He's a solid fighter all round.
yeah. So um, Myles just saying legends times two. So he's obviously talking about Roger Huerta and obviously Robert Whiteford. So definitely both legends. So but yeah, Dean obviously had that opponent, and then obviously they changed opponent. But I mean, it makes no difference. I mean, you know yourself. I mean, if you've got an opponent, whether they've got 6 weeks to fight or whether they've got 2 days to fight, do you know what I mean? That's you're still going to be prepared. You're not going to be not prepared, not ready for it. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you've got to get your game plan is your game plan. Like you go in there knowing what you're going to do, not really worrying about what your opponent's going to do. As long as you stick to your game plan, then the opponent should make no difference at all. Do you know what I mean? So
Aye. This this Julian Lopez does look really good fighter.
aye,
Um, see, he's got a win over Dominic Wooden, which is obviously a big win there. And a lot of the people that he's beat in the win column are some really solid fighters there as well.
yeah,
Got a TKO over a 5-0 recently as well. So solid fight.
aye.
Um, and obviously his opponent, he's German Alexander Luster. He's 8-1. So solid record himself there. It's going to be pretty good. He looks like he's had a few cancelled bouts. It looks like that they've been maybe struggling to get this. Um,
See when you look at him as well, man. You look at the boy Luster. Do you know what I mean? All these wins have came by finish.
and same with your man Alexander Luster.
Yeah, so
He's also all finishes, and it's a good variance. It's like submissions and TKOs,
yeah,
KOs. So
yeah,
it's probably going to be a wild fight. So that should be pretty cool to watch.
yeah. So I get like that's one that Myles has got. Probably tipped his fight of the night, but he's just saying that his opponent pulled out the last time as well. So
Ah,
so it's so definitely that I think Myles has tipped this one, the Luster and the Lopez fight as fight of the night probably. So obviously I'll get our fights of the night just shortly. But
yeah.
let's talk about the main event. Do you know what I mean?
Nah,
The
it's going to
main
be.
event. Do you know what I mean? The guy in my eyes is probably, do you know what I mean? I don't know, man. Stevie in my eyes is fucking the number one guy coming out of Scotland, and he's been at
Aye.
that level for years. Do you know
It
what I
has
mean?
been for a long time.
Yeah,
He's been an absolute legend of sport. Stevie's one of these guys. He just always rises to the occasion.
yeah,
Like it doesn't matter who you throw in front of him. He's going to do something fucking crazy. Do you know what I mean? Like fighting Anthony Pettis and Scottish, doing his own move on a fucking UFC former world champion. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
He's really like everywhere I've ever been and trained. People are like, Stevie Ray. You know what I mean? Like, oh fuck it, because he's just so good, man.
Yeah,
And he's one of the first guys I shared a locker room with in the early stages, of fighting back in sort of amateur career when he was still fighting pro. His whole career has just been absolutely legendary. He's just showed what fucking a big heart can do, and just being willing to give it a try. Because he started off and his amateur career. I think he went like 8-0 and then like 6-0 pro all in about 2 years, and
yeah,
really just shows you like how much self belief and just heart can go such a long way. He's had just legendary fights all the way through his career. And his skill set's just so well rounded that he can finish anybody anyway. And he's up against a really tough fight in Lewis Long. Lewis Long is a really tough fighter in himself.
yeah.
Really, really well versed everywhere. In particular, a really high level grappler as well. He's competed on Grapple Fest. I know we shared the same mat on Grapple Fest during lockdown. We competed on the same card, and he had a
Yeah.
really big win on that card. And I actually had a joint with him after it.
Some of that Welsh stuff, man.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean?
So
So
anyway, got a blether, but he's a mad character. He's a mad character, and
yeah.
aye, he's a good dude.
Stevie's one of the guys as well. I mean, me, you spoke about this recently when we had a chat before and talked about retirement. Do you know what I mean? Are you ever retired? And Stevie's that guy. Do you know what I mean? And I remember when the first time he done a very very emotional retirement because he was having some injury issues. So obviously,
Aye.
unfortunately, he called it a day, and then he come back with the PFL and obviously taking on Anthony Pettis and smoking him twice. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously he kind of he was kind of moving away again, or he was kind of retiring again. And then obviously the PFL Glasgow came, and it was like, Stevie, do you want to do it? And 100%, he's like, yeah, of course. Why would I not want to do it? Do you know what I mean?
Aye, it's got to be hard, like when you're when you're at such a you're such a great fighter. It's like having a trade.
Yeah,
And somebody asks you if you want to work, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? You're going to say aye a lot of the
yeah,
time, and people don't realise the strain and stress it puts on you. Stevie's obviously got a big family and stuff like that as well, and how
yeah,
much pressure and stress it puts on your family when you take on a fight and all the other
yeah,
stuff that comes with it. And then you're obviously, if you run a gym, you're then away from that gym, and you're not getting the time with your students, and you get used to that. You get used to being around your students and your team, and you get familiar with that. But he's got a lot of good people that are there to help him out at his gym Braveheart, because these guys are doing really well as well just now. And
yeah,
it's no doubt that he's, when he moves into that next stage of his career, that he's just going to produce some absolute killers. But
yeah,
his whole career's been amazing, and obviously, when he commits to it fully. So this is a huge fight for him. It's going to be awesome, to
yeah,
to watch. Two absolute warriors as well. So
yeah,
aye,
yeah,
and Stevie's, he's been on a tear in the grappling scene as well.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like, it's not like he's been completely inactive. He's been taking out some of the best grapplers out there, and then he's been competing against some top level, really some of the best grapplers in the UK and Europe. So
yeah.
um, he's never stopped. You know what I mean? It's not like he's going to be just constantly getting better.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing. I remember laughing with you before the last time we spoke, saying, "Are you ever retired?" Well, the answer's no. Do you know what I mean? So you never retire from us. Do you know what I mean? And that's you're gonna, if the offer's right, if it makes sense, then 100% you're going to jump in. Do you know what I mean? So Stevie, in my eyes, as absolute legend. Do you know what I mean? He's the
Yeah.
guy. He's probably the guy that's made. Don't get me wrong. There's been a lot of people over the years that have made Scottish combat sports, but then Stevie was one guy. I know Robert was the first one there, but then
Mhm.
Stevie was the guy that took it to a completely other level. Do you know what I mean? So, which is where the guys of today, the fighters of today, if it wasn't for people like Sir Robert Whitefords, your Stevie Rays and Joanne Calderwoods and all that, there probably wouldn't be. It would have been a harder kind of step to get to that level. Do you know what I mean? So,
Definitely, because it's like, once you think something's doable, then it becomes doable for everybody else. It's like you
yeah,
see in
yeah,
athletics all the time that, once somebody hits a certain time, then other people start hitting that time, because it becomes a realistic, achievable possibility. And
yeah,
it's the same way with guys like Stevie, guys like Robert. Don't get me wrong, like, fucking the amount of work that these guys have had today to get
yeah,
to the level that they've got to. Most people are never going to be willing to do that kind of work.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's like Big Mark McQueen, obviously making it to ADC, through ADCC trials to the ADCC Worlds. And
yeah,
when people do these things, it kicks in the door and it opens the door for the next generation, and it means, right, somebody else has been able to do that, and there's a blueprint there now. There's something you can say, right, okay, there's something tangible you can say, right, how do we do this, and it just increases the country's belief in general.
yeah,
um and that's something, I think, really, like, you're going to see that with the next generation of mixed martial artists. It's always going to be tough with mixed martial arts, because it's the hardest sport in the world. So you're not
yeah,
going
yeah,
to, I mean, I don't think there's ever going to be crazy amounts of numbers of people, even just stepping in to try and put themselves into it, because it's
yeah.
the hardest sport in the world for
Oh,
still
definitely.
some of the like at the early stages, it's the littlest reward, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, fuck, I can remember like just even there, like in Finland, somebody was asking me like, what they actually say, how much money you're going to get for that? And I told them, and they were just like, why would you do that? Yeah, and that's what they said to me. I'm just like, why would you do that? Yeah, and why would you risk your health for that? And it's like, well, because if I wasn't doing that, I'd probably get myself in more trouble.
yeah,
And honestly, for me, it's fun. So,
yeah,
you know, it's got to be it's got to be the same. It's like obviously there's a big reward for Stevie doing this now, and it's well worth it for him doing that.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but I think it's just going to be amazing to see him. He's going to be in the Hydro place. He's going to be sold out. You're going to just hear all the fans shouting. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be an amazing atmosphere. He's going to
yeah,
be able to, and nobody, nobody ever wants to finish on a loss. You know,
yeah,
that's for sure. Nobody ever wants to finish on a loss. So for Stevie, I think what was his last MMA bout was with Clay Collard, and he'll be wanting to right that wrong, and he'll be wanting to show that
yeah,
he has still got it, because there's no doubt he's an absolute fucking savage, and he still can beat the best guys in the world. There's no doubt
yeah,
about that. Especially fighting at home, I think that's going to be a huge factor. Stevie's always had a huge following when he fights at home. He feeds off the energy of the crowd, and I
yeah,
think that's going to be a huge factor. You're going to see the best Stevie Ray ever when he's out there
yeah.
on Saturday, man. I can't wait to watch it. To be honest, I'm really buzzing for the full card.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great. Lou as well, man. Lou is obviously again a great uh, kind of Welsh fighter. Do you know what I mean? He's obviously done a
Aye,
lot for Welsh martial arts. Do you know what I mean? And again, he's one of the guys that probably paved the way for a lot of Welsh fighters as well. So you're talking
yeah.
about legends from a legend from Scotland taking on a legend from Wales. Do you know what I mean?
Aye,
So
I don't doubt that he's going to have probably brought up a good bit of support with him as well, and
yeah,
he's in
yeah,
a similar position. He's coming off a unanimous decision loss in Bellator, so he's going to be looking to right that wrong as well, and obviously trying to get that taste out of his mouth. So
yeah,
maybe he's probably brought some support up as well. But a great guy, and I've no doubt these guys probably be mates after it. But he's a great guy, a great fighter. It's going to be
yeah,
one hell of a fight, but obviously, I'm going with Stevie Ray getting the finish. If I had to, well, if I had to bet on how, it's a hard one, but I think Stevie by TKO.
yeah, yeah. Just obviously Myles coming in saying freedom for Braveheart with a
Yeah,
third round armbar. Do you know what I mean? So a third round armbar. Yeah, yeah, good. Could possibly be. I don't know. I think definitely a submission. Do you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. Wait, I know that who Lou trains
yeah.
his
Lewis
jujitsu
is
and his grappling with.
Lewis is a great grappler, man.
Yeah. But I won't be surprised to see that it ended up on the ground and it ended up in some kind of grappling. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know. Stevie's grappling just seems to be. Lou's grappling's fantastic. Don't get me wrong. Lou's a judo black belt. Do you know what I mean? So, and do you know what I mean? So he's got some skills. He does have some skills, but I don't know, man. I think Stevie's grappling. I mean, look at who Stevie grapples with on a daily basis. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think Stevie's MMA grappling is some of the best in the
yeah,
world. Like, I think he's a lot of people don't realize that, but he's actual MMA grappling is just unbelievable. Like, just his ability to switch between striking and submissions and control is
yeah.
just different level to most people.
Aye, so that's going to be great as the two absolute legends of UK MMA. So going at it, so it's going to be brilliant. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Mop, there's still time. There's still what? When's the weigh-ins tomorrow? So
Weigh-ins tomorrow.
so there might still be a phone call.
That's true. Aye, that's true. You never know.
Your name's out there. You put your name out there. Do you
I
know what I mean?
know.
So
Real.
yeah,
I got a wee bit bite back, I got a wee bit bite back. But who knows? Maybe this will not be the last time they're at the Hydro, because
yeah,
I'm not quite ready to close the door yet either. I've got to go beat the fuck out that Hamadara. I'm going to fuck him up, and then once that's done,
yeah,
then we can look at maybe getting something else. But um, aye, that needs to be done first.
yeah. I mean PFL. I mean, see, once they see Saturday. Do you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, right? They've been a load of different places. Do you know what I mean? But there's nothing like a Scottish crowd. Do you know what I mean? See, like MMA. I mean, I've been like loads of places all over the place and seeing MMA and seeing the fans and seeing like I mean everything that's going on. But I've never had experienced a show in Scotland, and that's everything from
Hmm.
a local show like Alloa Town Hall, or do you know what I mean, or like
Yeah.
Troon Town Hall, all the way up to like the Maryhill Community Centre, the Hydro, Brayhead Arena, all that kind of stuff, and
I
the
think this is the
atmosphere
best
is the
card.
same. Yeah,
I think
yeah,
this is
yeah,
maybe the best Scottish card that they've ever put on, and as far as professional cards go, I think it's probably the best Scottish card that we've seen. It's it'd been better if a few of the fights hadn't fell out, because there was a few more on there.
yeah,
But I think it's going to be at least more than enough to get fucking showing them what the Scottish crowd's all about, and to bring them
yeah,
back to the Hydro again at some point. Because like you say, are you ever really retired? But aye, it'll be good to see, and I'm hoping to get in there one day. It'd be amazing to fight there.
yeah. How close you reckon we're to getting a UFC back? Do you know what I mean? How close you reckon? You think we're a couple of fighters away from it?
Couple of
Because
fighters away from it.
yeah, because
Uh,
what we got? We got Paul, we got Chris. Do you know what I mean? So who else we got? Do you know what I mean? You got
I
the kid.
reckon if Paul wins his next fight, which he's more than capable of doing, and then if Chris wins his next fight,
Yeah,
it'd be good. And I think that there's a few guys they could scoop up. Like maybe they would come back to Stevie after another win there in the Hydro, and say, let's get him back for one last UFC fight or whatever. And
yeah,
like the talent's there. It's not a lack of talent. It's just whether the UFC is willing to fucking recognise it and actually capitalise on it. I think that's what the PFL's done an amazing job is,
yeah,
that they really, because they've got Dan Hardy, they're really tuned in to who the
yeah,
best, because you're missing, Dylan Tuke and stuff like that. I know Dylan's Irish, but he's adopted Scottish now. You know what I mean?
He's Dylan
Um,
Scottish, man. We're claiming him, man.
Aye, 100%. We're
We're
claiming
claiming
him,
him.
man. He's been here for long enough now. So, but we've got all these amazing fighters that,
Yeah,
that really could fill the card. Like we've got enough high level professional fighters to fill the full card.
yeah,
Especially you look at Cage Warriors has managed to pick up a bunch of guys, Scottish fighters as well.
yeah,
But these guys, I don't know how many fight contracts are on or whatever. But there's big opportunities. Guys like Ian Postlewaite's on the rise. There's
yeah,
loads of guys that they could be snapping up for. Filling a full card of Scottish fighters. So I
yeah,
definitely think that the groundwork's there for them to come back and have a full card of Scottish fighters for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, no, it'd be good. It'd be good to see. Do you know what I mean? It'd be absolutely amazing to see. So, do you know what I mean? I'm a huge supporter of Scottish MMA. Everybody knows that. I get into trouble for stuff I say. Do you know what I mean? So,
Aye.
because I'm so passionate. Do you know what I mean? But
Oh, look, we're only a wee country, so we've got to back our own. We've got to shout about our own. I know people go, "Oh fucking hell, you're biased or whatever," but aye, we are.
yeah,
we,
we,
we are biased, but I wouldn't hold that against any country for being biased. I
yeah, yeah.
actually,
No, listen,
I prefer when people are like that.
we're not very good at football, but we can fucking fight, man. We can
Aye,
definitely fight.
exactly.
Do
We
you know what
we grew up fighting. It's part of our culture. Do you know what I mean? We enjoy that. It's definitely I reckon it's our best export.
I mean? Definitely.
Um,
Miles just said
so
Dylan took total monster. He
a hundred
definitely is, man.
percent.
Do you know what I mean? And Miles, Dylan is as bonkers in real life as he is in the cage. Do you know what I mean? So it's never an act. I mean, you know yourself. Some MMA fighters put on an act, whereas Dylan's
Aye.
is crazy inside the cage as he is outside the cage. Do you know what I mean? So, but total nice guy. I remember when I fought, that one of the first people that messaged me was like James Doolan and Dylan Took. I wasn't even friends with Dylan Took, and then I got this
Mhm.
random message request, Dylan Took, and then when I read it, man, I was like, that was absolutely. And what he wrote, man, was absolutely brilliant. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I remember seeing him and saying, "Look, thanks very much." Do you know what I mean?
A
And
lot of people didn't realise that because they maybe see all the madness, and
yeah, yeah,
stuff like that, and with the fighting. But he's actually a really caring guy.
yeah. Yeah, and that's the only conversations I ever had with him was when I was up a higher level, and it was like maybe up with my boy TJ, or I was up seeing a couple of the boys or whatever. So it was only really, hello, how you doing? You all right? It was
Mhm.
that kind of interaction. But then, as when he sent me that message, I was like, wow. And I still
Aye.
talk to him. I was like,
We
Fucking
we
tell
were
him
over
put.
for an interclub fairly recently, and he was one of the guys that went over, and he just made all the the first timers and that feel really welcome, and
Yeah,
I thought he'd done I thought he shows his character with that. He was really
yeah,
making a lot of the sort of beginners and the guys that were maybe a wee bit nervous and that just feel a bit more at home and more relaxed going into their rounds and kind of helping them through it and stuff like that. So
yeah.
he's a good dude.
Aye. Fight of the night then. Who you got?
Fighting, and I actually think I think the fight of the night is probably going to be. I think Stevie's fight's going to be the fight of the night. Eh?
Yeah, yeah,
I think that their styles is just really like well suited for some crazy exchanges. Eh?
yeah,
Um, could see some mad scrambles and just some mad stuff happening in that fight. I think that's going to be an amazing fight. Um, Lorenzo's fight is probably going to be the same.
yeah.
I think that's going to be a pretty amazing fight as well. Fuck, man, there's a lot of good ones, man.
There's
There
so
is.
many. Yeah, there's so many. Do you know what I
There's
mean?
a lot of good ones, but I'm going to be there anyway. Like me and a bunch of the old guys from higher level, we used to sort of all train together. We're all going. Me and my brother and Callum and a bunch of other dudes as well. So
Yeah,
we're all old teammates. We're all getting together for a catch up and watch some of our old teammates scrapping. So I'm really looking forward to it, man. It's going to be an amazing night.
must be different from obviously years ago, because obviously years ago training at a high level and all that years ago, there was a lot of crazy people, a lot of absolutely mental people. But a lot of these guys, a lot of these fighters have grown up now and got families, and do you know what I mean? They're
Aye.
respectable people. But back in the day, man, it was like maybe we're not as respectable.
Aye,
So
it's no, that's it. Like we're going with like we're one of the guys going to be catching up. I think it's going to be Mowgli who used to fight Alex Davidson. I
yeah,
don't know
yeah,
if you remember him. He was a
yeah,
great
yeah,
fighter, and he was always like probably one of the funniest guys in the gym. But new he's like yes, he's in a respectable job in that now, and a wee bit less wild. You know what I mean? But he's still got all the patter. So I
yeah,
just. It's going to be class catching up with everybody as well because we didn't get a chance to see. I mean, we used to train with each other every single day, and you don't even you miss all your teammates and
yeah,
your pals and coaches and stuff as well. That you get used to seeing them every single day, and then obviously, but that's just martial arts. You know what I mean? Everybody ends up going on their own journey and moving on, and you keep in touch. You see each other when you can. And that's
yeah,
just adult life, in it. But it's like, but you go like years and years and years of your life seeing these people every single day and seeing you
yeah,
pushing through the hardest times of your life and stuff like that. And the great thing about that is I think that because you've had that relationship with them and you know exactly who they are as people. Like that's one of the great things about martial arts. Like when you're in the gym training with people day in day out, like there's no
yeah,
lying, there's no bullshit, and you know exactly who a person is. You know exactly what they're capable of, and I think that's why you end up with such close bonds.
yeah.
I think that's a good shout for Myles there as well, saying about that fight of the night. He's probably spot on.
Parenti and Catacoli, yeah. So
Be a
mine's
cool
just
one.
Whiteford and Huerta. Do you know what I mean? I
Aye.
think I think that for as long as it's going to last, that fight's going to be absolutely wild, man. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I just think, don't get me wrong, Stevie and Lou is going to be a great matchup. Do you know what I mean? But I just think Robert Whiteford, man, when I saw him at the UFC years ago, man, and he blew the roof off the place, man. Do you know what I mean? When he won, he just mate, the place just went mad. Do you know what I mean? So
Aye.
I think this is going to be the same. This fight's going to be the same, and then again, he's just going to blow the roof off it, and then it's like Stevie, you're up next. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
And so
No,
um,
it's the energy is going to be fucking awesome.
yeah, yeah. So, guys, there we go then. PFL Glasgow this Saturday, 28th of September. There is still tickets available, so anybody looking for tickets, they're reasonably priced as well in
Aye,
comparison
that's it.
to.
Honestly, it's brilliant the
Yeah,
costume and stuff as well. So get involved, go and show support. Everybody's fucking always talking about support your MMA fighters, this and that. It's like just again, people go and support Glasgow fucking Celtic and Rangers,
yeah, yeah.
week in, week out and cost them a fortune. Go and
Aye,
spend 50 quid on a ticket and support guys that have absolutely grafted their whole life to fucking put on a show for people's entertainment and put their health at risk for people's entertainment.
aye.
It blows my mind when if these events aren't sold out because you've no idea the sacrifice that these people have to go to. You know, when it comes to football players, there's fucking thousands and thousands of football players in the country. When it comes to fighters, there's literally about 20 of us doing it. Do you know what I mean? About
Yeah,
20 people actually going out and doing this sport. So get
yeah.
behind them, support it, you know.
Nah,
Because
definitely. And the thing is, they represent Scotland as well, especially the Scottish fighters. Whenever they
yeah,
go out there, they're 100% representing Scotland. You hear it when they do interviews and stuff like that, and they
on a
talk about
world
Scotland.
level as well, it's like when you look at comparison, it's like these guys are going out and they're competing against the best fighters in the world. You
Yeah,
know, our football teams aren't doing that. You know what I mean? Maybe Celtic are recently, hello, but you know, our football teams mainly aren't doing that. They're going out and playing other Scottish teams, and you know,
yeah,
people travel for it to watch them. It just blows my mind. Like our fighters are fighting the best fighters in the world, the
yeah,
best fighters in Europe, the best fighters in the world. That's the level that we're at. There's literally fucking 20 people that are at that level. So get out and support them, you know.
definitely.
Cheer for them because it does make a difference, you know what I mean? You feel the energy, you feel the support.
Aye, I'll be down at submission series this weekend. So
Nice, nice.
I was going to be going to PFL, so they sent me the credentials and stuff like that and said, "Oh,
Uh-huh.
there's the credentials," but then the credentials go into your spam folder in your email. So by the time I
Ah,
got the
shit.
email, I would already agreed to head down to submission series. But I'll be watching. I'm doing the commentary at submission series, and I'll
Fair
have
enough.
PFL on my phone
Yeah.
watching it. Do you know what I mean? So you'll probably
I
hear
see
me
you've got some
commentating, and then
fancy stuff. You've been getting some designer gear here in the background as well.
aye, aye, aye. Well,
A
aye.
wee flannels bag there.
The wee flannels bag. Do you know what I mean? I love a wee design or something. Do you know what I
Aye.
mean? So I need to keep myself looking good dress
Get that
wise anyway,
Burberry
because
dog.
I'm getting all older, mate. I'm not as pretty as I used to be. Do you know what I mean? So I need to be
You've got
going
to
out with
tack
good
yourself
gear
up
on.
with the designer gear.
That's it. That's
Oh,
it. Do you know what I mean?
I got this jacket for £15 Forever Island. It's fucking cozy like.
Aye, aye.
I bought it in the summer for the winter.
Best time to buy it, Mark. Best time to buy it. Do you know what I mean? So,
Aye.
there's paper. Sorry, it's live as well. So it's live
Mhm.
on the usual places. Make sure you head over to social medias for PFL Europe.
Yeah.
Okay, so PFL Europe, you've got them on Instagram, you've got them on Facebook, and so on. So make sure you head over there. You've got all the information, fight cards on there, all the kind of fighters. They had the face-offs outside the Hydro last night
Seen
as
that.
well.
That was cool.
Yeah, yeah. So they were dressed up, man. They all had big jackets on and stuff like that because it was absolutely freezing last night. Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's not going to be freezing inside that Hydro on Saturday night anyway. So make sure you go and make sure you definitely enjoy it and support the fighters, guys. Not just the Scottish fighters, but support every fighter that walks out. I know the Scottish fans; they're very, very respectful. Do you know what I mean? But make sure you support every fighter that steps out there because
For sure.
yeah, this is everybody's dream, man. This is everybody's dream, and these guys are getting to go out there and live it for us. Do you know what I mean? So, but Mop, thank you very much. Absolute pleasure as always,
Good to
brother.
chat as always, Stu, man. It's good to see you, mate.
Myles as well, just coming and saying, Stoom, Yoda, and Craig. Do you know what I mean? So a big shout out to the MMA Yoda, Myles Painter. Do you know what I mean? So obviously showing up as per usual. Always Myles always having a lot of information. He knows his shit, man. He knows his
Yes,
shit.
sir.
Even if I don't, Miles will keep me right. Do you know what I mean? So
We're
uh,
all learning
yes. But listen,
every
Mop,
day.
thank you very much as always. Enjoy Saturday night. Enjoy it. Do you know
Thanks,
what I
mate.
mean?
I'm buzzing
So
for it.
and yeah, listen, I'll see you. I'll see you soon. I'll see you soon, brother.
Awesome. Take care, mate. Catch
All
you
right.
soon.
Take it easy, buddy.
See you soon. All the best, Miles. Bye.